Hey-O-Wham, what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. WWE Worlds collided tonight as NXT took on the NXT UK and the Imperium. Though they found themselves short-handed from early on in the match, found it within themselves to take down Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era. But there is one thing that remains undisputed, and that is the fact that when NXT gets together to take center stage on a big pay-per-view weekend, nobody does it better, and we are here to talk about it right here and right now. This is what it's like when worlds collide. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Worlds Collide review and reaction show. Let's do it.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
You know what's funny is I bet Vince McMahon thought he was safe. Ha ha ha! Done! We're safe! We don't have to deal with a takeover overshadowing the Royal Rumble. Boy, was he wrong. He probably saw that first match, and by the time that match was finished, Vince McMahon was like, oh shit! Here we go again. NXT stole the show tonight. It doesn't matter if you're from the UK, if you're from the USA. They could probably do NXT Antarctica and put together a pay-per-view of penguins wrestling in a frozen squared circle, and it would be the best show of the entire year so far. NXT's first pay-per-view offering set the bar so high that if tonight's any indication of what this year is going to bring to us, it's going to be a hell of a year for NXT, the black and gold brand, pulling out all the stops tonight on a show that I really didn't think was going to be that much. I know we had some pretty big matchups announced, the Undisputed versus the Imperium being the major selling point here. DIY versus Mustache Mountain. Those were two surefire 5-star offerings of matches that you knew you were going to tune in for. But I didn't realize that it was going to be this good. Maybe just because they didn't call it TakeOver. But I didn't take into account that when you put the letters NXT next to the letters PPV, you come out with a great night of professional wrestling that makes you proud to be a professional wrestling fan. It makes you be proud to see tag team wrestling take center stage and be done so excellently. It makes you proud to see the Cruiserweight Championship looking as fine as it has ever looked in its life. They revamped the Cruiserweight title now that it is property of NXT, and it's one of the best looking belts I have seen so far. It's just really, really streamlined, really cool looking. They didn't, veer away from that weird shape that it had, but they made the belt, the strap itself, more streamlined, and it just looks amazing. And then we had a new champion crowned tonight in a Fatal 4-Way matchup that puts most other Fatal 4 matchups that we've seen to shame. And sure, for this guy's taste, maybe it was a little spot-festy at times, but some of these spots in this matchup were so spectacular that all 4 men came out of this matchup looking like future stars. You want to talk about future stars? Let's talk about Ilja Dragonuv. I don't know where they found this guy. I don't know if they signed him because of his weird red eyes or because of the fact that he's going to come out to the Russian national anthem and make people feel like they're watching Ivan Drago come out to the ring to wrestle, which obviously didn't do him any favors in Houston, Texas tonight. The crowd barely knew who he was, and now he's coming out to the Russian national anthem. I'm sure that didn't do any favors to the newcomer. The young kid came out there and shined brighter than most stars on the clearest night that you could ever see in your life. It was unbelievable. Brighter than the sun. The future for this kid is unbelievable. To be able to go out there and hang with a talent like Finn Balor, a former Universal Champion, a former NXT heavyweight champion of the world, is unbelievable. Hats off to them. They kicked off this show in an opening matchup that was at times very calculating. They seemed very evenly matched, and Dragunov actually seemed to have Finn Balor's number throughout the entirety of this opening matchup that kicked off the show tonight. It was given just enough time. It wasn't too long, it wasn't too short, and I really enjoyed every single second of this match. This is one of those shows where I can't sit here and pinpoint and call all the moves to you and go through everything maneuver by maneuver, because it was just so much to take in. And I didn't want to take my eyes off the screen to write down notes, because that's what professional wrestling is all about. You take a look at this matchup, and this is what wrestling is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be flipping around and doing all kinds of crazy high spots for no reason. It's supposed to be calculating. It's supposed to be a mental chess match between two gladiators, and these guys pulled that off to a T. I can't wait to see more for Dragunov. I hope that they move him to NXT over here in the States, because I want to see more of him without having to add more wrestling to my weekly intake. I can barely watch NXT UK as it is, so I was taken back by this kid. I was never exposed to him before. I haven't seen him. And coming out of this first matchup, I can't wait to see more of him. Finn Balor here gets the win, as you probably could have easily predicted, but he made this kid look great, and he looked fantastic, and he proved exactly what he set out to prove, and that is when you come at the Prince, you better not miss. Dragunov just barely missed in the final closing seconds of this matchup, which led to him eating a coup de grace, and then the 1916 for Finn Balor to get the win in this intense match to start off this show, which, much like how this pay-per-view set the bar for the year, this match set the bar for the rest of the night, and it was definitely elevated in every single instance, minus one. But we will get to that. The Fatal 4-Way that we were talking about, Jordan Devlin, the Irish Ace, came out of nowhere. This guy looks great. This guy looks like a hybrid of Chris Benoit and Edge. You know, you mash these two guys together and you get Jordan Devlin. He's kind of got this weird, like, posture to him, and his body looks slightly off the way Chris Benoit's used to look. But then his face kind of looks like, you know, Finn Balor and Edge came together and merged themselves into one person, and now you have Jordan Devlin. And you take all the talent in those three names that I just mentioned, and he probably possesses that. This kid shined so bright tonight. He was the standout in this matchup. We had some great stuff in this match by Travis Banks as well, another NXT UK superstar. The champion, Angel Garza, was tremendously over here in Houston, Texas. I know the Garza family has a long line of Texas wrestling history behind them, so they were definitely pulling for the champ in this scenario. And Swerve Scott, Isaiah Swerve Scott, looked the best he's looked since signing with NXT in this match tonight. A lot of really fun, great spots in this matchup. This maybe could have been pulled back just a little bit and maybe tell a little bit more of a wrestling story in it, but the match was so fun. And these guys and the strength that they possess and the moves that they pulled off, most of which were very well orchestrated, some of which didn't go off as well as they intended. Some of the execution on some of the bigger spots did not hit the way they needed to. There was a couple of rusty, sloppy little botchy moments in this matchup. Some clear misses with some of the strikes, but you take points away for that, but then you have to add points for some of the other stuff that went on in this matchup. My words do all of these matches no justice, so if you missed Worlds Collide, do yourself a favor, and before you put yourself through 6 hours of a Royal Rumble that's going to make you want to do nothing but bash your head in with a hammer, enjoy yourself 2 hours and 20 minutes of some of the finest stuff you are going to see all year long already. I mean, the year just started. This is going to be very hard to top. And with an NXT takeover happening just a few weeks away, I can't wait for that. They have to beat this, and I'm sure they're going to be up to the challenge. They actually took time out in this show, this pay-per-view show, to try to build a little bit towards what we are going to be seeing at TakeOver Portland in portions of the matchups and in portions of the segments that we will see throughout the night on this show. Jordan Devlin, tremendously impressive, winning the beautiful new NXT Cruiserweight Championship. A very big surprise. I don't think anybody could have predicted this. And now the Cruiserweight Championship goes overseas to the United Kingdom for a little while. Or does this mean Jordan Devlin comes and stays in the NXT here in the States? I don't know. Is he going to just go back and forth now? How is that going to play out? It's going to be very interesting. The Cruiserweight Championship is not just being confined to NXT, that one brand. It can jump over the ocean. And that's what happened tonight. And Jordan Devlin, after the matchup, jumps up on the table. Do you believe me now? Apparently, he's been telling people he's been going to do this. He proved himself right. Do you believe me now? Screaming at everybody. This was really good. He says you never bet against an ace. This is fantastic stuff. This is good stuff. I was very entertained by that Fatal 4-Way. We've seen the new North American champion, Limitless Keith Lee, in the crowd, hanging out there with his boo Mia Yim, who was in the pre-show match tonight, which I didn't get to watch, but Mia Yim unfortunately lost to the NXT UK Women's Champion, Kaylee Ray, in a pre-show match that was supposedly very good. I didn't get home in time to see it, so I was not able to watch that. But we also saw Chelsea Green come out with Robert Stone. They came out and sat in the crowd to watch the next matchup, which was going to be DIY versus Mustache Mountain, which, in stark contrast to the Fatal 4-Way, this match was a masterclass in wrestling psychology. They also took a moment in this match to show you how to do wrestling comedy. See, wrestling comedy is not about putting on fucking outfits and throwing pancakes and putting crowns on your head and doing segments and skits in the back. Wrestling comedy was illustrated here in this matchup perfectly from the beginning of this matchup. You have two very well-respected, much-beloved tag teams. One, a symbol of NXT here in the States. The other, a symbol of NXT UK. Both of them flagship tag teams of their respective brands. Never before have they met. Two babyface sensations. Two of the best tag teams ever assembled. And they are going to come together here tonight for this dream match. And they decided they were going to have some fun. And because they decided they were going to have some fun, we had some fun as well. And now for me, don't crucify me for this, I feel like the jokiness of this matchup maybe went on a little long. But when it finally did kick into gear, we got probably what was the match of the night before all was said and done. Tyler Bate, he's a smaller man, yes. But his strength and his charisma and his wrestling knowledge and the stuff that he does in that ring makes up for his lack of size. He's also not tremendously smaller than everybody else, unlike guys like Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Like, you know, Tyler Bate is a decent-sized guy. He's just one of the smaller members of the roster. He's also a former NXT UK World Champion, right? The first ever United Kingdom Champion. And he shows you guys tonight why he is deserved of an honor like that. When he steps in the ring with a Johnny Gargano, that's a dream match in itself. Tyler Bate versus Johnny Gargano. And you see why here. They started off with a lot of, inside jokes, going hold for hold with each other, almost mirroring each other in their movements. At one point, Tyler Bate had Johnny Gargano's foot, but he let him down. And then they shook hands. There was a lot of respect going on. They were playing off to the crowd. They both tagged in their partners, and now we had a one-on-one between Ciampa and Trent Seven. They were going at each other for a little while in a pose down. Tommaso Ciampa decides to show his guns, and then Trent Seven fires up, and he's like gonna make the pose, but he's like, no, I look like this, Ciampa looks like that, he wins, and then the match just keeps. It was entertaining. It went on for some time. Maybe a little less time would have been better, but the match kicked into full gear. It was really, really good stuff, man. Really high intensity, really impactful, and very, very smart. Very smart. These guys knew each other inside and out. Some of the counter sequences went on for what seemed like to be days. they knew each other so well, just going hold for hold, move for move, counter after counter. It was a beautifully orchestrated matchup, and it showed tremendous wrestling psychology. It made for a tremendous encounter. It was so damn good. I can go back and watch this match over and over again. Why Tyler Bate and Trent Seven, when they were brought over to Monday Night Raw, as well as Gargano and Ciampa when they called them up, they could have made them the cornerstones of a tag team division that would have been off the charts by now if they would have taken it seriously and allowed moments like we got tonight with tag team wrestling. You can't have a tag team division and put on matches like you put on a weekly basis and then have NXT out there giving us matches like this. This was crazy. This was absolutely crazy. Ciampa and Gargano would eventually gain the advantage and end up winning this matchup. It was a very, very good matchup. Everybody shook hands after the match. They were all showing some good sportsmanship, which we don't often see very much of, except when we are watching NXT. I enjoyed every single minute of it. It was fantastic. Go back and watch it if you missed it. Mercedes Martinez was shown in the crowd. Also, they showed Dakota Kai, who looked like she didn't even want to be there because she's a little sourpuss right now. But then she got her ass beat by Tegan Nox, who came out of nowhere and started an all-out brawl with Dakota Kai that got really intense really fast. They ended up breaking through barricades, trying to be ripping each other's eyes out. They were pulled apart by security, and the crowd was chanting, "Let them fight," and they are going to get the chance to fight this week on this episode of this next coming episode of NXT. So like I said, they're doing things to build interest and to keep you invested and to make you tune in to future shows while you are in the middle of one of the best shows you've seen in your life, which is much appreciated by a guy like me. The weakest match of the night goes to the NXT Women's Championship. I don't care if you don't like it. I will not refer to the championship of the women on NXT as the NXT Championship. You see, the NXT Championship is around the waist of Adam Cole, baby! So, I don't understand what we're doing here. Okay, and I'm not going to get into the whole rant about what Becky said and the taking away the... I don't care. You don't have to reference it as the women's division if you don't want to. You can erase the division part of it, but you can't erase the fact that they are women and that there is already an NXT champion. So she has to be the champion of her gender, since the genders don't clash. So that would make her the women's champion, not the NXT champion. That being said, Rhea Ripley defended the NXT Women's Championship against Toni Storm tonight successfully in the weakest match of the night. And that's not a slight to either one of the ladies involved. I'm a huge Rhea Ripley fan. There's just seems like she's not comfortable in her own skin as champion yet. And I don't know if her performance tonight had anything to do with that wicked spot she took, that suplex into the corner where her head bounced off of the second and then third turnbuckle. She rolled out to the outside and paid a whole lot of attention to her neck, and nobody really came out to check on her, which I thought was weird. And the rest of the match felt kind of awkward to me because as somebody who's training in professional wrestling and has trained in professional wrestling, when you know what some of those things feel like, you don't look at wrestling in the same light anymore, and you maybe become more concerned than the average viewer because you can just maybe kind of tell when something's off, and I felt like something was off in Rhea Ripley for the remainder of that matchup. Toni Storm did a great job trying to carry that match as much as she could, but the consistent attacks on the neck and the DDTs and stuff like that, it made her look vicious. It made her look vile and like she was attacking with intent to injure. And that's really not Toni Storm's character. They're both very popular. They're both baby faces. They're both, in this grudge match just because one's from NXT UK and one's from the NXT. And I thought this would have been much more interesting had they given Toni Storm the NXT UK Championship at the last TakeOver Blackpool, which I thought would have happened. So we would have had champion versus champion. Didn't have to be for a title. Could have just had champion versus champion at When Worlds Collide. And then you could have, in effect, had the same exact matchup. But I guess they don't want to have the champion, one champion look weaker than the other, which I can respect. But at the same time, it took a little bit away from this matchup. It was just a chance for Toni Storm to take the NXT Women's Championship from Rhea Ripley. But that did not happen, so we don't have to worry about any of that. What we do have to worry about is the condition of Rhea Ripley following that matchup. I really think that spot was not good, and I'm very surprised that they didn't check a little bit more up on her following that spot. But she did get through the match, and she did end up victorious. The match itself, like, it wasn't bad by any means, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great. I guess maybe I expected better. The crowd didn't seem to really be into it, and I don't know if that's because they weren't sure who to cheer for. At times there was a little bit of a dueling thing going on between Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley, chants happening simultaneously, but really, both of these girls positioned against each other in this matchup didn't do much for either one of them by the time all was said and done, and we could only hope that nobody got hurt and that we can continue on. Now Rhea Ripley moves on to facing Bianca Belair at TakeOver Portland, and we go from there. What does the future hold for Toni Storm after losing a championship matchup? Who knows? Is she going to go back to NXT UK? Is she going to stick around in NXT? We don't know. Either way, she did great tonight. Rhea Ripley was great tonight. The match itself, compared to everything else we got tonight, maybe if this, it's miles above what we would get in the women's division on any of the other shows in the WWE. So take that as the win. But on this card, on this night, definitely has to be my least favorite match. And again, not a slight on the women at all. Just speaking truth. Talking factual, being honest, because that's what we do here. Johnny Gargano is in the back doing an interview following his victory tonight, and he gets attacked by Finn Balor backstage, continuing to build towards TakeOver Portland. Mustache Mountain came to the rescue of Johnny Gargano in the back, which set up a little bit of a standoff between Tyler Bate and Finn Balor, and I'm salivating at the possibility of seeing that matchup in my near future sometime. That'll be fantastic. Looking forward to that. And then we had the main event, the Imperium. Walter. Walter is amazing. Walter is just something special. You know, Walter reminds me a lot of Vladimir Kozlov. Remember Vladimir Kozlov? And they booked him like a jerk, and he ended up becoming another WWE big guy clown. And I think he was being tag teamed with Santino Marella, and it was just absolute garbage. And that's what the WWE would probably do with a Walter even still to this day. And it's a scary possibility. But also when I look at Walter, I don't see a resemblance to what could have been for Vladimir Kozlov if they booked him correctly and made him awesome. I see a very slight similarity, and you can maybe call me crazy if you want, but there's just something about him when I'm watching him moving around and the way he delivers his offense. He reminds me of Andre the Giant. Now, sure, he's not 7'5", 400 plus pounds. He's not from France. He's not the eighth wonder of the world by any means, but there is just something about how he moves around that ring and the way he beats up his opponents and his freakish strength that he has and just the tremendously large, imposing stature of his. It's impressive. And since, you know, we're talking hybrids tonight, he's almost like a hybrid Kozlov and Andre, and that's a weird mix of anybody's wrestling dreams. Nobody would have ever dreamed that. Oh, if you're going to plan an awesome pro wrestler, who's the two wrestlers you mix together? I'd mix together Kozlov and Andre the Giant. You're an idiot. Get out of here. That's probably what would happen if that was how it went down. But there's just something special about Walter, and I don't know how else to describe it to you. He just feels bigger. And not just because he is physically bigger. He just, his presence, there's an aura about him. And the way he is in the ring is just so great. It is what professional wrestling is made for. He is what professional wrestling was made to have. I don't know if I said that right, because he really, really gets it. He gets it. He knows his character. He performs that character perfectly in the ring and out. He has a great stable of guys behind him, none of them that I really care too much about. To me, the Imperium is all about Walter. And while these three guys, Fabian Eichner, Marcel Bartel, and Alexander Wolf, definitely tested their mettle tonight and showed their worth tremendously, it's all about Walter. And you can't deny that. Without Walter, the Imperium probably doesn't go anywhere. The NXT United Kingdom champion stole the show tonight, as you probably would imagine. This was a weird matchup because early in the onset of this match, Alexander Wolf would take a kick to the face that knocked his ass completely out. My man was out on his knees the minute that foot connected, to the point where he couldn't kick out of a pinfall attempt. And thankfully, Bobby Fish and the referee knew that wasn't the finish, so they didn't go with it. They rolled him to the outside as they couldn't get a response from him. It stopped the match for a good 2 or 3 minutes, as it should, because this man is unconscious in the ring from a stiff kick to the head. But now it did something else, which kind of makes this match a little bit weird. And not weird in a bad way. It just kind of makes the Undisputed Era look even worse, in my opinion, because Alexander Wolf would be removed from this matchup and he wouldn't return, turning this into a 4-on-3 matchup. The Undisputed Era are supposedly the best stable in all of NXT. They've been wreaking havoc in the brand for as long as we can remember. They've only recently had their first hiccup along the way with Roderick Strong losing the North American Championship this past Wednesday, but they have been positioned as one of the strongest groups. And to lose this matchup in the handicap scenario where you're down one man makes it look a lot worse than it actually is, I think. Not a good look for the Undisputed Era to be losing at all, to be losing with a man advantage. And I know that wasn't the plan, and they don't have any choice. They're going to go with the finish how it was planned out. But it's a bad look, man. At least if the two teams were at even strength, you could make the argument, well, they just had their number. Each guy was, had their opposite, and this team was just better. But now, even when the odds are in their favor, the Undisputed Era loses. And the fact of the matter is, Walter is 3 men in 1. They didn't need Alexander Wolf. Alexander Wolf, his soul was absorbed by the big man. He made up for the loss. This match maybe went on a little bit too long, since we're always honest on this show. I thought the finish was going to come about 3 times before it was over. And while the match was great, it just seemed like it was a little bit off due to having to call so many audibles. Who knows how many spots had to be thrown by the wayside because now one man was missing and they had to change things on the fly. The one spot that sticks out in my mind is when Walter got suplexed through the announce table. That was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable spot. He would return from that, though, and end up securing the victory for his team after a couple of crazy spots to the outside. See, now, the Imperium were victorious here tonight, but at what cost? Alexander Wolf went down after that kick. Fabian Eichner would come bouncing off the ropes, doing some really impressive acrobatic stuff. Does a flying crossbody off the top rope to the outside where everybody is standing, but does so well that he kind of missed the majority of the crowd, and his leg came crashing down on the concrete, and he looked like he messed up his knee to the point where he couldn't even walk around comfortably while the Imperium was celebrating their victory in the ring. So at what cost does the Imperium have to put up with going forward due to this battle that they had tonight with the Undisputed Era? It was crazy. It was a crazy matchup, full of ups and downs, full of a lot of false finishes. It was really intense, just like the entirety of the pay-per-view. I was kind of surprised that they gave the win to the Imperium, but I guess they wanted to even things out. NXT UK, if you include the pre-show, came out with 3 wins. NXT came out with 3 wins. So of the 6 matches on the night, both brands split the difference and remain equal in their dominance. No brand is higher than the other that way, and that's probably fitting, because there are no 2 better brands than NXT and NXT UK. It's undisputed at this point. I didn't expect much from this card going in. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. It definitely had its ups and downs, and it had its, sloppy points. As always, not every match and not every show is ever going to be perfect, but this is as close to perfect as we're probably going to get for some time, or at least until we get to TakeOver Portland. I am not looking forward to the Royal Rumble tomorrow, not in the least bit at all. It's going to be 6 to 7 hours of a lot of boring undercard matches, leading us to a couple of Royal Rumbles that are going to end in a way that is going to probably infuriate all of us. And I hope to see you here for the review of all of that stuff tomorrow night as well. This show is definitely worth a watch. If you missed it, it's worth every single minute of it. It's one of the best shows you'll see all year, hands down. And as we said at the beginning of the show, it just raises the stakes so high that I don't even know if TakeOver Portland will be able to take that mantle of the best show of the year, as 2020 just kicks off in such a huge way, thanks to Worlds Colliding tonight in Houston, Texas, stealing the show from the Royal Rumble before it's even begun. It doesn't even have a chance. Thank you guys, as always, for being with me once again tonight. This review is mainly for all of you diehards. I know there's not really a lot of interest in this. When I do NXT reviews on this show, they don't really get much coverage, and if this one does, then that's great, and I hope you guys had a good time here talking about NXT with me tonight. If you did, hit that subscribe button and become a Sledgehead right now. Be a loyal brother or sister of the Sledgehammer family we are cultivating here at Sledgehammer TV. Be a subscriber, hit that button right now, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything every time we upload an awesome wrestling related video just like this one. Don't forget to smash that thumbs up if I made you laugh, if I made you cry, if I made you understand why When Worlds Collide was such a great experience tonight, even though it had a couple of minor flaws. Then hit that like button right now, and then share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if maybe they missed When Worlds Collide and you want to tell them, hey, go listen to this guy because he's going to make you regret it. Or maybe you could make them go watch When Worlds Collide and then make them go watch me so that we can all talk about it together. And don't forget to do just that by leaving a comment down in the comment section below. What did you think of When Worlds Collide? What was your favorite matchup of the night? Do you think I'm crazy? Because I think Walter reminds me of Andre the Giant a little bit. I see it. I see it. I can't deny what I see with my eyes. And I always report it with 100% truth and honesty to you guys. Thank you, as always, for being here. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you. Thank you all once again for being here. Don't forget to check out everything else on the channel. Raw reviews, AEW reviews, SmackDown reviews, NXT reviews, everything you need for your professional wrestling soul under one roof right here at Sledgehammer TV. That, my friends, is going to do it, and we are out of here. And we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube Boom.